What's up, Green Bay Packers fans? Welcome back, and as always, thank you for joining me. My name is Paul Brettel. Today, we're here to discuss Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney, Brian Gutekunst, two free agent additions from the offseason, absolute home runs, crucial members of the Packers' Week 12 win over the San Francisco 49ers. But first, you know the drill. Hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I do greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel. You can find all my work over at ESPNLacrosse.com for my Wisconsin sports fans. Packers, Brewers, Bucks, Badgers radio throughout the day, throughout the week. Download 105.5 ESPN Lacrosse app. You can find me on Sports Lead Monday through Friday from 3 to 6. Like I said, Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney, their impressive performances. Let's dive in. Let's start with Josh Jacobs, who for this week was a cure-all for the Packers' red zone and third down issues that they've suffered from for really much of the season. And you could tell from the early going, the Packers' plan in this game was a heavy emphasis on the run, and understandably so. The Niners' defensive front was without Nick Bosa. Javon Hargrave is on injured reserve. Kevin Givens was out as well. So Packers saw an opportunity there, and you could tell they wanted to take advantage of that early on. Some big running lanes for Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson as well. Jacobs had 17 carries in the first half alone, and on the game, he would go on to carry the ball 26 times, 106 yards. Emmanuel Wilson would add another 41 yards on just 9 carries, and as a team, Packers averaged 169 rushing yards in this performance. And perhaps the most impressive part of Jacobs' play was, and we've seen this throughout the season, but goodness, his ability to make defenders miss. I saw Pro Football Focus, by their metrics, just in Sunday's game alone, Jacobs had 11 forced missed tackles. I think NFL Next Gen Stats had him with 15. Either way, just an absurd number for a single game performance. And like I said, and as we've all seen, this has been pretty steady from Jacobs this season. He came into Sunday's game 5th in average yards after contact, 7th among all running backs in missed tackles forced, and a key part of that equation for him in just that success, that ability to make defenders miss, is his vision. You can see his ability to change direction on a dime, know where he wants to go. And Ben Sermons, the Packers running backs coach, talked about this with us Thursday leading into Sunday's game about Jacobs' vision and just how it helps him separate himself from a lot of other running backs in this league. For one, Sermon said that the game for Jacobs, like as the play's unfolding, is just moving that has slowed down so much for him at this point in his career that he can manipulate blocks to set up defenders. And what Sermon's meant by that is, as the play's unfolding, as Jacobs has the ball, almost knowing, all right, if I go this way, the blocker's going to go here. It's going to take the defender here. That should open up a running lane over here, and then boom, jump cut to it. So again, just a really impressive feat and a little tiny peek behind the curtain. Just what goes into making Jacobs such a successful runner. What goes into his ability to make defenders miss, which obviously leads to him picking up those chunk runs. And like I said, third down, red zone for the Packers this season has been a major issue. They came into this game ranked 22nd in third down offense, 27th in red zone offense. But again, Josh Jacobs, the run game for this week was a cure-all for those issues. The Packers, excluding their final drive, where they were just running out the clock at the end of the game, they finished the game converting 50% of their third down attempts. And for some context, the Kansas City Chiefs offense currently leads the NFL with a success rate of 51.8% on third downs. And of course, in the red zone, Packers were a perfect 5 for 5 on the game, which crushed their season average, which I think was at 48% coming into this game. And we've talked about it quite a bit here over the last week or week plus, because again, these third down issues, these red zone issues have been a persistent issue for this Packers team. But when you can get the run game going, it makes third downs a lot easier. Obviously, it keeps you, when you're picking up 4, 5, 6 yards a pop, it keeps you out of those predictable, obvious passing situations where you're in 2nd and 10, 3rd and long. The defense isn't really expecting you to run. They don't really care if you do run as much in those situations. they're playing the pass, and most offenses are going to throw the ball as they try to get back on track, get back ahead of the sticks. But the defense has the complete advantage in those long down and distances. Like we always say, pass rush, they're pinning their ears back. They're not worried about is it a run, is it a pass. They're getting off the ball, they're going and getting the quarterback. From the secondary's perspective, coverage-wise, they have the advantage. There's only so many routes you can run beyond the sticks when you're in, again, 2nd and 8, 3rd and 10 situations that the secondary coverage-wise, again, has the advantage. So when you're not picking up yards on first downs, or in the Packers' case, penalties, which have been an issue this season, and you're putting yourself even further behind the sticks, the offense is at just such a major disadvantage in those situations. On the flip side, you're picking up, again, those 4, 5, 6 yards on the ground. Now all of a sudden, the entire playbook is open to you. Tucker Kraft said after the game, when asked about Jacobs, the run game, and just the impact on the offense as a whole, he said it opens up everything. Like being able to move the ball on the ground, the script flips, right? The defense is now the one who's in the bind. Because when you're in 2nd and 4, you can do, as an offense, you can really do whatever you want at that point. You could run the ball, you could throw the ball, you could dump it off, you could push the ball downfield. The defense has to be ready for absolutely everything. And again, that slight hesitation, it's all it takes at the NFL level. From the pass rush trying to decipher, is it a run or is it a pass on this play? The coverage standpoint, all it takes is that split second to open up a passing lane or for a running lane to open up. If it's a running play, and when the defense has to be mindful of both the run and the pass at the same time, can spread them out. They got to defend the entire field. There's one-on-one matchups. There's more space for the offense to operate in. Again, and that's just a very small look at the trickle-down effect of a good run game being in those advantageous short down and distance situations. But like Tucker Kraft said, take it from him, not me, everything gets opened up when you have a run game to lean on and when you're in 2nd and 3rd and short situations. Now in the red zone, and we've talked about this in here before as well, because I know these are two topics that keep reoccurring, but they're important ones and they're areas where the Packers do have to get better. But in the red zone, it's innately more difficult in that part of the field to pass the ball. Just think about it. You're in a confined space, right? If you're at the 10-yard line, the 15-yard line, you can't really stretch the defense vertically. There's nowhere to go. It's out of bounds. So there's more defenders in a confined space. So just that given makes it more difficult to move the ball through the air when you're in the red zone, when you're in that part of the field. And so the run game, and we've heard Matt LaFleur talk about this, the ability to run the ball successfully in the red zone is a massive, massive key to that red zone success. And again, for a lot of the reasons that are meant that we just talked about. Head of the sticks, opens up the playbook, keeps the defense on its heels. They can't just play the pass, can't just play the run, whatever it might be. Again, gives the offense the upper hand in those situations. And Josh Jacobs was, again, Jordan Love talked about it afterwards, the offensive line play and the ability to lean on the run game in the red zone. Obviously, Josh Jacobs was able to run it in, 3 touchdowns, all within a yard or two from the end zone. But again, that was a big part of the Packers' success in that part of the field. And Jacobs said after the game that, he's talked about, joked about with Matt LaFleur, like, hey, if we want to get the red zone game going, just give me the football. And we saw that unfold during Sunday's game. Now, overall for this offense, 38 points. Passing game was slightly out of sync. It just didn't quite feel like it could get going. There was some off-target throws from Love, drop passes from the receivers were an issue, but the offense had Josh Jacobs. They had the run game to lean on. And this is really the second week in a row that Chicago game was another example of that. While Christian Watson and Jordan Love pushing the ball downfield against the Bears provided that big play spark in that game, Josh Jacobs in the run game, Josh Jacobs as a pass catcher against Chicago was the meat and potatoes. It was the stability for the Packers offense. And then that was really the case this Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers as well. So again, Jacobs, the run game, gave the third down offense, gave the red zone offense a huge boost in this game. Now the question, the key, this was great. Can you do it again? Can the Packers, and not that we expect them to go 5 for 5 in the red zone every week, but can they replicate this kind of success? Was this performance against the 49ers is this going to be closer to the norm moving forward? Or is this game, are we going to look back and go, that was the outlier? That one unfortunately went against the grain versus what we've seen in the upcoming weeks ahead. So that's a big question to ask. But this performance can be the blueprint. And again, you have Matt LaFleur as your coach, Jordan Love as your quarterback, a ton of pass catching options. Matt LaFleur as a play caller is obviously very, very good at drawing up game plans based on, all right, what does the opponent do well? Where are some areas we can exploit? And putting a game plan together based on that. So how the Packers attack a team each week is obviously going to vary. And again, you have Jordan Love, all those pass catching options. The passing game is always going to be a factor within this offense. But the blueprint, the run game component of it from this past game, I think can be what this Packers offense leans on more often than not, especially when things maybe aren't going well, if they get off to a slow start, if they hit a lull in the middle of point of the game. Go back to Josh Jacobs, go back to the run game and lean on that to then help accentuate this already dynamic passing game that you have. Because it's not, oh, this should be a running game, or, oh, this should be a more pass-heavy game. Obviously, there's going to be the games are going to ebb and flow again depending on situations, how it unfolds, who the opponent is. But when this offense is at its best, and it's what Matt LaFleur wants to do, there's a marrying of the run and passing games together and how they work, how they build off each other. So that's the ultimate goal. But the catalyst to get to that point can be Josh Jacobs in the run game. All right, now let's discuss Packers safety Xavier McKinney. The game, as we all know, ended in a 38-10 win for the Packers. But McKinney had two very, very crucial plays at the start of the second half on back-to-back 49ers possessions that really helped the Packers team as a whole put this game away, put this game out of reach on Sunday. So, 49ers score before halftime to make it a 17-7 game. They start with the ball coming out of the third quarter, opportunity to cut the lead to one possession, whether it's a touchdown, whether it's a field goal, and they were driving on that opening possession of the game. They got to I believe it was a 3rd and 8 from the Packers' 45-yard line. So they're in Green Bay territory. Brandon Allen, the 49ers quarterback, doesn't have anywhere to go with the ball, starts scrambling to his left. McKinney comes flying over from the middle of the field, forces him out of bounds. It's 4th and 2 now from the Green Bay Packers' 39-yard line. The first down, and the 49ers are pretty close, if not already in field goal range, again, to cut it to one possession. And if they pick up the first down again, who knows, maybe they go down and score a touchdown. But on that 4th and 2 play, you have Christian McCaffrey, 49ers running back, lined up to Allen's left in the slot. And then just to McCaffrey's left is wide receiver Juwan Jennings. At the snap, the two almost right on top of each other and in sync run a few yards upfield past the first down marker, so 3-4 yards from the line of scrimmage. Jennings, who's the outside receiver of the two, cuts in on an in-breaking route, and McCaffrey cuts out on an out-breaking route. Again, just to cause a little bit of maybe hesitation, confusion for the secondary. But the second, you go back and rewatch it, the second you see McCaffrey's foot plant in the ground and you know that he's heading towards the sideline, McKinney makes a break on it. Makes a break on McCaffrey, where the ball goes, of course, undercuts the route and breaks it up. Pass breakup, turnover on downs, Green Bay Packers ball. Now, unfortunately, offense, I think they went 3 and out the next possession. Give the ball back to the 49ers, who again, third drive in a row for their offense, they're driving down the field. They find themselves back in Packers territory at that point. I think, again, they were just across midfield around the 45-yard line. And they find themselves in a 3rd and 8. But first, before they got to that 3rd and 8, just want to mention TJ Slayton. TJ Slayton was in on the first down tackle of Christian McCaffrey and the second down tackle of Christian McCaffrey. I think McCaffrey picked up 2 yards on first down, no gain on that second down play, putting them in a 3rd and 8 and forcing the 49ers to pass the ball. Basically, in that second half, any success that the 49ers offense had was predicated on how did Christian McCaffrey run the ball. Like we talked about Jacobs, if he was picking up chunk runs, keeping them ahead of the sticks, they were able to get into a rhythm and start moving the ball. But if the Packers stopped him on early downs, you put the ball in Allen's hand, obvious passing situations, that's where the Packers defense off the field. So one, credit to TJ Slayton and the rest of the Packers front for those early down stops, forcing the 49ers to throw the ball. On that 3rd and 8, Allen drops back, looks for Deebo Samuel across the middle. Isaiah McDuffie gets his hand on it, goes through Deebo Samuel's hands. And as he always does, Xavier McKinney, right place, right time, not by accident, but he's there for the interception, returns it, I think, 48 or so yards to the Packers' 26-yard line. Offense comes out 3 plays later. They score a touchdown. Just like that, it's 24-7. And really we can look at it as the turning point in the game. And again, in a 38-10 victory for the Packers, perhaps these plays can be overlooked to a degree. And obviously an interception is really important, so maybe overlooked isn't the right term. But they were so pivotal, right? Because at that time of the game, the 49ers, just before halftime, they drove down the field for a touchdown. They get the ball back. They're driving down the field again. Xavier McKinney, 4th down stop. Back to the Packers. They're driving down the field again. Again, still a 10-point game at this point. Still a lot of time left on the clock. Even a pair of field goals on those 2 possessions changes the dynamic of the game. A field goal and a touchdown, it's a tie game. 2 touchdowns if the Packers surrendered that, and San Francisco has the lead. Now, I don't know how it would have played out if McKinney doesn't make those plays. None of us do. But we can look back and say those are really pivotal plays at key moments in the game that ultimately set the Packers offense up to score a touchdown and really put the game out of reach at that point. And these type of big plays from McKinney, I mean, it's just been constant from him throughout the season. He's now up to 7 interceptions on the year, which is the most in football. According to Pro Football Focus, he's surrendering 1 catch every 24 snaps that he plays, and he's only being targeted by quarterbacks once every 36 snaps. So depending on how many defensive snaps the Packers have in a game, McKinney might see 1 target, maybe 2 at most throughout a game. Like quarterbacks, and we'll touch on this in a second, they're not even looking in his direction. But his impact goes well beyond just his column in the stat sheet. I mean, he is a force multiplier. He makes everyone around him better by his presence, by just being on the football field, by being Xavier McKinney. From Jeff Hafley's perspective, putting together the game plan, the flexibility that McKinney provides because of his versatility allows Jeff Hafley to really get creative with his game plan. He can really mix and match what the game plan is, what calls he makes based on what the matchup calls for, right? Who the opponent is. And then there's an ability to disguise those coverages as well, again, because of McKinney's versatility. Go back and pick really any Packers game this season. You'll see it over and over and over again where you see McKinney at the snap, he might not be anywhere even close to that position when the quarterback hits the top of his drop. There's a lot of plays where once the ball snapped, McKinney's making a beeline to a different part of the field. Again, causing some chaos, causing some confusion for the opposing offense. So he provides that ability. And like I said, another component of this is quarterbacks aren't throwing in his direction because of his playmaking ability. And so for the defensive perspective, well, that shrinks the field. If there's a portion, an area of the field, wherever McKinney is, that the offense doesn't want to go to, I mean, that takes away a chunk of the field that you necessarily have to worry about, have to be concerned about with coverage. So that's going to help the cornerbacks. That's going to help the linebackers. Again, him just being on the field provides a benefit to the rest of this Green Bay Packers defense, and his impact, his ability, who he is as a player, all starts with his preparation. Ryan Downard is the Packers defensive backs coach, and a couple weeks ago he was telling us that after the Jacksonville game, so the Packers are on their bus to go to the airport to fly back to Green Bay, and McKinney and Downard are on separate buses. So as they're driving to the airport, they just came away with this last-second win over the Jaguars on a field goal attempt, and McKinney is texting Downard asking him for the Jared Goff tape. Lions were the Packers' next opponent that week. And that preparation, that intensity, that work ethic, that focus that just once the game's done, putting it behind you and just moving on to what's next. I mean, that's who Xavier McKinney is. And that's a big reason why we see him having so much success. It's all of the work, the attention to detail, the striving for perfection that he puts into it. And Jeff Hafley said, an example would be, on Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, it's an off day for players. He's texting Hafley, all right, what's the third down game plan for this week? Because McKinney wants to get his eyes on it before Wednesday when the team returns to the facility, when they start putting in or implementing the new game plan for the upcoming week, having meetings, going through walkthroughs. He wants to see it beforehand, study it. He goes in before everyone else that morning to meet with Hafley, to meet with Downer, to discuss what the game plan is, the why behind it, his thoughts on it, and then going through walkthroughs, not even on the practice field yet. Hafley says that McKinney has to get it right, has to do it perfectly on the first time, or he gets frustrated. And as Hafley said, that's what great players do. That's how great players approach the game. There's this obsessive component to it. And again, that was just a little peek behind the curtain that they gave us into who McKinney is. And then we see the trickle-down effect of that on Sundays with all of the big plays that he makes. So Packers signed McKinney this offseason, obviously, as a free agent. 4-year, $67 million deal. In terms of average annual value, almost $17 million per year. Is the fourth highest paid safety in football. Feels like a bargain. It really does. I mean, what he brings on the field, what he brings off the field, he's just been an incredible addition for this Packers team. And again, as I alluded to earlier, if those plays aren't made, do the 49ers score? Do they not score? Do the Packers win the game still? Probably. I mean, they had a 10-point advantage right in the second half. But what we can say, the Packers are not 8-3 like they are right now if they don't have Xavier McKinney. All right, my friends, if you made it this far, you might as well hit like in the video, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I greatly appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel. Download the 105.5 ESPN Lacrosse app. Head over to ESPNLacrosse.com for all my work, multiple articles per day, including on these two topics right here. Appreciate you tuning in. Take care. See you next time.